Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, and my friends, this is your Eddy Gordo starter guide. And like so many of these other starter guides on the channel, we got all sorts of info for you on Eddy Gordo. And as a bigger video, I'll have timestamps for you for everything so you can skip forward to whatever makes sense for you. Although if you skip forward, hey, leave a like. So before we get into the meat of the video, let's talk Eddy Gordo pros and cons. Every character has strengths and weaknesses, and Eddy is a bit more pronounced on both ends. So Eddy, one of his biggest strengths is just a wide variety of lows. So we're going to get into some of the better lows in the top 10 section, but his ability to trip you up on just so many things is just wild. He's dripping with lows. And Tekken being Tekken, lows are when you're going to sneak in a lot of your damage, which is fantastic. And not to say, you know, his mids are somehow deficient to make up for the lows, absolutely not. But yeah, he just has a lot of ways just to poke you out, which is great. And obviously, Eddy being Eddy, he's got all sorts of stances. He has his classic handstand stance and his relaxed stance. Handstand is known as Bananiera, and the relaxed stance is known as Negativa. And from both these stances, it gives him the world. You get so many options just to trip up people, mix up people, apply pressure, which is great because a lot of his offense just sort of naturally flows into these two stances one way or the other. Regular strings will just automatically put you in these various stances, and from there, you get your opportunities to mix up and pressure the enemy. Fantastic. And from these various stances, some of your more powerful moves will be found, including his unique level up mechanic. And once you have the level up mechanic going, then all of a sudden new moves become unlocked and your pressure just gets all the better. Your mix-ups get all the better. Now, this is what we would call a limited resource. I'll cover it in its own section, so I won't go into it too much right now. But basically, you build it up and it resets every round, so it's not going to stick around forever. So make sure to use it while you got it, because it's not always going to be around. Another fun thing for Eddy is his while standing offense, like while standing 4. Very, generic, useful tool, right? His is a lot more expansive than the average character. Has whole strings attached to it. In fact, if you go for the whole thing, it is chip and plus on block. He does have the usual while standing 15 frame launcher. It causes a crumple, but he does have a 13 frame natural combo launcher as well, right? So his punishability from a while standing is much higher than usual. His full crouch offense is very good as well, and we'll get into that a little bit. So yeah, just from a crouch, Eddy's also very strong. And basically, between the lows and the gimmicks between the two various stances, you just got a lot of mix-up and a lot of pressure, which is great. Now, the one thing about Eddy, you probably notice, is very mobile, very athletic, lots of flipping, lots of jumping. And unfortunately, this is one of the bigger cons, as that does not help him in the end. So Asuka here, when she blocks, she's just going to go for a jab, right? And say if you have like whatever string you're doing and people are either just mashers and they mash out, or they're actually good players and they know the various weaknesses of your strings. If you get jabbed out, usually it's not the end of the world. Like you'll eat a 1-2 maybe or something. Sucks, but whatever, right? The problem with Eddy and the fact that he's so flippy is a lot of the times when that jab comes, it's going to hit you while you're airborne. And when it hits you while you're airborne, that means you're not just going to eat a 1-2 combo. That means you're eating an entire full combo. And some of his cooler strings, like 4-4, back 1-4, they all suffer this problem in that when he's getting a little too acrobatic for his own good, a simple base 10-frame jab can lead to like 50 plus damage because they'll juggle you out and you got to watch out. So be careful on the strings, right? If they know, they know, but sometimes if people are just prone to mashing buttons nonstop, they might be lucky and catch you as well, right? So that is definitely one of the more decided weaknesses of Eddy Gordo. But that said, Eddy Gordo, one of the legendary characters of fighting game history, and I think the Tekken 8 version of the character is a pretty fun incarnation of the character. So now that you know some of the base pros and cons of the character, let's talk his top 10 moves. These are some of the most important moves for you to know on your Eddy Gordo journey, so let's get to it. Now, let's talk 10 important moves for you to know. Eddy has a pretty nice move list, and obviously you should learn everything in time. But if you're just starting out, here are moves for you to focus on. So the first one we're going to talk about is 3-3. So 3-3, you might notice here, is not even a natural combo, which sucks, but it is interesting. So one, it is a natural combo for counter hits, right? So there's that at least. But you may notice here, it puts you in the handstand stance. That's kind of the big deal here. And say you do get blocked, and don't worry, it's not the end of the world. It is mid-mid after all, so this is not one of those deals where you can block the first one then duck the high, right? So this won't get interrupted for the most part. And when you're putting the handstand, you're putting the handstand at -3. And I know -3, well, -3 is negative, but -3 is kind of an important number for handstand stance. So like handstand 4 also leaves you at -3, and it's basically the perfect amount of frames to put you into a bit of a guessing game. So if the move connects as a natural combo and a counter hit, great. You're +8, which is a very large amount of plus frames to be. And from there, you can basically enforce all sorts of mix-ups. You hit it, okay, we can go for like, say, stand 4, or, you know, for like handstand throw, or like whatever you want to do. Like if it hits, that's the best case scenario. But if it blocks, it's still not too bad. Like this is where our guessing game comes from. Because from handstand, we basically force a 50-50. We go for handstand 3, which is indeed a slower move, but what it is a low profile move that low profiles almost instantaneously. So if they go for even their fastest highs, you'll just low profile it immediately. Like it doesn't matter. A 10 frame high, not a big deal. You'll just go under it pretty as you please. And then you can go for various strings as it's a very annoying long string if you just want to keep mashing 3. That's one of the benefits of Eddy is if you mash 3, it'll give you stuff. Basically, the only thing that can beat this is a very fast mid. They have to know exactly what they're looking for. And the move itself is also completely safe on block. And let's say, you know, some of all fears, they're very on the ball with that fast mid. Well, this is where handstand 1+2 comes into play, because it's a power crush, right? So, in essence, it's a little bit of a 50-50. Basically, handstand 3, once you put into it, will basically beat everything other than the fast mid. And then handstand 1+2 will beat everything that beats that, right? And of course, there's other options like handstand back 3 has evasiveness built into it, and then can bop the enemy on the other side. If, you know, they whiff something, you catch it. And there's just a lot of play, counterplay, all that kind of fun stuff. And it's all built off of just stand 3-3. Once again, if you get the hit, fantastic. Counter hit, +8. Go for whatever mix-ups you want to go for off handstand. And if it gets blocked, well, that's sort of a mix-up in and of itself. So very interesting stuff. You know, not the be-all, end-all, but it's definitely a move to keep in the arsenal. Now, next up, let's talk down 3. So this is one of those really good lows I talked about in the pros and cons section. So down 3 is very serviceable on its just own nature, right? So 21 frames to start up, so, you know, it's on the edge of reactability. Most people are not going to catch this. And by itself, it's +1. So +1 leaves you in crouching, like, has very good while standing offense, above average while standing offense, in fact. So, okay, that's good by itself. Also, as far as being negative, it is -14, so definitely punishable, but it's not that magic -15 number. So that means you're not going to get, you know, full launch punished for the most part, right? So that's great. But what's really great is on counter hit, oh, trips up. And that trip up leads to a guaranteed forward 4. Like, no matter what, forward 4 is guaranteed. In fact, if you're quick enough, it will become just a natural combo as well. So basically, good poke, +1 on hit, you know, not gonna blow up if it gets blocked, and on counter hit, it's a decent sizable damage. Like, after the hit, it forces you into handstand, so you're gonna have to, like, basically manually leave the stance, because you're not really getting anything past that, so no okie, no pressure after the fact, but it's good damage. It's all it needs to be. You poke, you harass, it's 17 damage by itself, so it's serviceable for a low. And every now and then, if you catch him with the counter hit, big damage. And of course, it's also a low profile move. You count as crouching while doing it, so all sorts of highs will just go clear over your head. So this kind of use and abuse. This is one of Eddy's main lows. It's basically all upside. So not much more to say than that. So now from one very good strong low to another, let's talk forward 3. This is absolutely one of Eddy's signature moves. So forward 3, also 21 frames. Just like down 3, right? So, and also, just like down 3, puts him into a crouching state very early on in the move, so that means he'll go under all sorts of highs. The difference here is down 3 is more of a normal, I guess you could say low. Forward 3 forces you, although this is not a bad thing, but forces you into Negativa state. And from Negativa state, we get all sorts of options, including the next move we'll talk about in a moment here. But basically, it's really, really strong. You get all sorts of mix-up potential. Do you want to go for highs? Do you want to go for lows? Do you want to just kind of like crouch up on the enemy and see what's going on? You got a lot of options to play with. And of course, we'll talk Negativa in its own section later in the video. But basically, you hit it, great. Okay, you hit it, basically mix-up pressure time. You get more than just the base hit. Once you hit, now the guessing game begins, which makes it so powerful, so strong. And if it was just that, good enough. But hey, we got another layer bonus. Just like down 3, if it hits as a counter hit, well then magical things start happening. So if it hits as a counter hit, it puts the enemy in a slip stun state, plus 15 specifically. So from here, if you just want to do like a low level easy thing, you can combo into your various crouch grabs. And one of your crouch grabs is also a heat engager. So you can be heat engage and just be directly on top of them as they wake up, which is very powerful. Or you have a different heat engager option, which is Negativa 4-3, which also, from the counter hit, is a natural combo as well, right? So either way, however you want to play it, you will get heat mode and just go directly to town, right? Generally speaking, 4-3 is the go-to option. But, you know, if you just want to play around different things, or if you already used up heat, see what other options you got. But that's really, really, really strong. 50 damage for a counter hit low is not nothing. And if, say, you happen to already be in heat mode, by the way, this could be a game over scenario. So, you know, there we go. 81 damage, not nothing, right? So if you're already in heat, you can naturally just kind of go into the heat engager combo, because it's going to be the move you're going to be following up with anyways, and get a nice chunk of extra damage. In so many scenarios, this is going to be one of your go-to moves just for everything. It's so good. The fact that it puts you into stance with decent plus frames after the fact will provoke responses. And there's going to be a little section later in the video talking about like play and counterplay to the counterplay. But yeah, it's just really, really strong. And while we're in Negativa stance, let's just move on to the next move, because it's one of the superstars of Eddy's offense. Okay, so now we talked forward 3, and it leaves you in the Negativa, the relaxed stance, right? Let's talk the superstar of relaxed stance, and that's relax 3-3. This is effectively what we would call a hell sweep style move, a power low. If the first hit connects, and it's a clean hit specifically, meaning you're mostly close to the opponent, second hit is guaranteed, 30 plus damage, what's not to love? Also the fact that it gives you a stack of your buff. And once you start building that buff, you unlock more of your moveset, and you just get deadlier all around, right? It flings people all the way across the screen. You can pressure follow up after the fact. It's just really, really good. Once again, Eddy's just dripping with all sorts of great lows. You know, there's even more than we talked about. Like, say, counter hit down 4-3. Guarantees a crouching throw if it connects. Counter hit down back 2-3. Is a launcher if it's a counter hit. Like, he's dripping with really good lows, but this is just one of the really turbo powerful ones, right? I don't want to make the top 10 section like just all lows, but he's got a lot to work with. For the most part, anytime you have something threatening with Negativa stance and you have mild plus frames to back it up, you can now just threaten with this very powerful low. And naturally, to back it up, we have very powerful mid options as well, right? We're not just all gimmicks with nothing but lows. So the threat of the mids is what makes the low extra powerful. Not too much else to say about this. This is a sledgehammer move. This is not a subtle move. You get in a position, and then once you can threaten it, you just go for it. And if it connects, it's just all upside, all reward. And other than it getting blocked, being a hell sweep style move, negative 26 on block, you're gonna be eating crap if it gets blocked, right? But that's by design. That's how these moves work. But yeah, other than the fact if you happen to get blocked, it's just all upside. It's so good. It's also so fast. 16 frames for a 30 damage low. It's really good. It's fantastic. Not much more else to say. Okay, so we talked stance 3-3 and said it's a sledgehammer. So let's just go on to the other sledgehammer. This is back 3+4. This move is dumb. The good kind of dumb. Like if you're playing Eddy, dumb, checkmark, positive, right? But dumb. So this is a 20 frame power crush heat engager high. And that's a lot of words to put back to back that are all really good things, right? Generally speaking, heat engager power crushes are kind of complained about. And this is going to be a move you can complain about if you're on the receiving end. It does very high damage, 28 damage if it connects, and obviously heat engager. It's mix-up time if it connects. And the beauty of beauties is, it's blocked. It's -7, but like look at the pushback on this. -7 from this far away is a suggestion for the most part, right? Like, you're not enforcing any jabs or anything like that. No quick mids will have that kind of range. You can kind of just backdash out, just scam them out. There's almost no consequence if it gets blocked. The only consequence, the only downside to this move, if you can label it, is the fact it's a high. And if it was like a mid, it'd be like the best move in the game. This is a move you can just go berserk with, like absolutely berserk. There's almost no downside. Just use it, use it, use it, abuse it, abuse it, abuse it. It's so good. Like, I'm not trying to tell you this is some sort of nuanced move. Like, this is, you know, to show how much better you are than your opponent. No, you just get done with this move, and there's almost no consequence. It's basically all reward. What's not to love? It's so good. It's so stupid. It's so good. Now, another fun move to talk about is from Handstand stance. And very easy to do, Handstand 1. So Handstand 1, a couple things are happening here. So 1, it automatically puts you in Negativa stance. And you might notice here, very advantage frames if it does so. You're +8. So when you're +8, that makes the old Negativa mix-ups of, you know, guess the hellsweep, or maybe I'll go for my mids, right? Makes it pretty easy to enforce, because not much is going to be beating these buttons. So that's good already, right? Basically, if you get the hit, okay, we got a little bit of mix-up coming our way. And if for whatever reason it hits as a counter hit, it just splats the enemy, straight up. And from the splat, you will indeed get a little bit of guaranteed damage on as well. So that's nice, that's nice. So basically, all upside on hit, great. Now, what if it's blocked? Well, this is the power of the move. Because the move is a little bit slower, 23 frame startup, right? And if it's blocked for whatever reason, you get big time advantage frames still. And you get chip damage. So basically, no matter what, it's still your turn, right? On hit or on block, it is your turn no matter what. You're going to be in Negativa stance, so you're lower to the ground. That means all sorts of highs and all that are going to miss you anyways. And from there, +5, well, our hell sweep is 16 frames. There's no 11 frame mids, right? So that basically kind of writes that chapter right there. So if they're trying to mash buttons, trying to mash mids to beat you out, you're going to win no matter what. Not to say there's no counterplay, right? Because there's always counterplay. There's always options no matter what. But basically, this is just another big, dumb sledgehammer move. And he's got a lot of these, actually. Like, for a character that's so flippy and, you know, like, aesthetically just all over the place, you'd think it'd be a bit more technical. But no, Eddie can kind of just get really stupid in the good way, the good way. But yeah, this is another one of those just sledgehammer moves. Hits, great. Block, sure. Also kind of great. It's still my turn. We'll figure out. Hope you guess right after the fact. Now, next one is a bit of an easy one, honestly, but hey, run 3. So run 3, lots of characters have really good run moves. I'm not going to say Eddie has like the best of the best as far as like run pressure goes, but it's still really good. And maybe it's a little slower, but if it connects, yo, it hits really hard, does 30 damage. If it's blocked, it leaves you very plus, does chip damage, also +8, and you are putting your handstand stance directly beside the enemy. So basically, if it's blocked, just immediately start guessing. Like, what am I going to be doing? What options am I going for? So it just kind of has the built-in pressure, built-in mix out of the gate, which is one of the design qualities of the character, once again, right? If you get hit, or sometimes even if you block, okay, you're still going to have to worry about one of my 2 stances and kind of guess from there. And run 3 is very much that. Once again, another kind of sledgehammer style move for a character that has a lot of sledgehammer style moves. You just do it, and short of they step out of the way, you'll probably be happy with whatever result you get. Obviously, getting the hits better, but if you get blocked, you're not going to be too broken up about it either, because you're going to get a lot of fun options from it. Now, here's an interesting move, up forward 2. So up forward 2, he takes a little bit of a sidestep, and then, well, he goes and attacks the enemy. So the initial sidestep here, where he sidesteps to his right, is actually very, very evasive. Like, any situation where you're a little bit negative, but not overwhelmingly negative, even if they go for like their fastest possible button, like, you know, a 10 framer, you can easily sidestep with this, steal your turn back, and slam them to the ground. Now, if you're like -9, you're not going to have enough frames, right? Like, it's not going to work out that way. But basically, if you're only negative a couple frames, this is an effective, very strong turnstile move for pretty impressive results. Now, the one thing is it is indeed negative 13 on block, so it will guarantee a small punish if it connects. But I think the reward is well worth the risk. Especially here, if up forward 2 connects, it just leads to guaranteed damage. You can see they're in the state where their feet are up in the ground, right? So that means you can do something like forward, forward, 4, and just connect and get your damage in. 40 damage is not bad for a very solid turnstile move that's very evasive. So if you know your opponent is always going to press once they block, just set them up with something, that's not that negative on block, and then boom, sidestep, bop them on the head, get your damage in. There's a lot to love here. Or say in situations where the opponent's just a little bit of frame advantage here, but not like wildly so, it's another good way to steal turns as well, right? So if you're a little negative one way or another, be it because you did something that's a little negative on block, or maybe they enforce some small plus frames on you, this is just an effective, really strong turnstile move. So another move to talk about is another one of these sledgehammer moves. So this is full crouch, so you have to be crouching already while doing this, down, forward, and 3. And by itself, it is a mid that will put you into the Negativa stance. And as you can see here, +9. So if it connects, basically your mix-up is very enforced. They're just going to have to guess what's next because they're just at too much of a frame disadvantage to do much about it. So, all right, okay, that's good, sure. The thing about this is, on counter hit for 1, it becomes a big old bounce. So forget those plus frames, we're just going to get a full combo now. And naturally enough, full combo, hey, just go for whatever you want to get, right? Like, you're playing Eddy Gordo, you might as well do the thing and get your damage in. It'll hurt if it hits. But this is going to be yet another one of those moves where if it's blocked, you're still put in the stance, it does chip damage, and also, you're still at significant frame advantage. Like, no matter what, like, these are so many of these moves, right? Where if you block, it's still time to basically guess. So once again, once we're plus here, we can go for our mids, or we can go for our lows. We can do a lot of different things here. Eddy has a lot of options to work with. So it's just another move where short of like the opponent like steps in and evades it, on hit or on block, you're winning. And that's a really good kind of move. And our last move to talk about is sidestep 3 + 4, which is a launcher. And beauty of beauties, it is also a safe on block launcher. -7 with just a little bit of pushback. Eddy, he's got launchers, right? Like, while standing 2 is a crumple launch. He has a traditional, normal launch, although it's down forward 3, not down forward 2. But, the more normal launch is -18 on block. So that itself will get launched on block. So why risk it, right? Why not go for a safer option? You do got a sidestep, so there's a little bit of startup, I guess. But safe on block is safe on block. It's a high, so it's indeed duckable, but you know what? He's got some fun options out of sidestep anyways. Like, he's got a mid, he's got a double hitting low. Once again, he's got a lot of lows, right? We keep talking about lows, he's got a lot of lows. So there's some options here, right? But yeah, so you're going to launch. The initial launcher doesn't do the most damage in the world. Like, at least it's always good to get a win stock going on, right? So you'll always benefit. Maybe it's not going to be the most damaging combo, but it's going to hurt still, right? It's still going to hurt. So it is very useful for what it is. Safe launcher is always welcome no matter what character you are. So for Eddy, it's a pretty solid move. Now let's talk Eddy and heat mode. So for the most part, you get all the usual advantages, right? You do chip damage on block, you get a heat smash. His is extra flippy as you would expect. And also, if it's blocked, it'll put you into Negativa stance. And it'll leave you at a pretty sizable advantage frames as well. As is kind of the gimmick. We've talked a lot about this already in the video. Lots of things will leave you at plus frames in one of your 2 stances. And that's just another example of exactly that. So sure, whatever. The thing about Eddy in heat mode, though, is he has the heat smash, sure, but he kind of effectively has 3 heat smashes. He gains access to 2 all-new moves that are only possible in heat. One is 3 + 4, and he'll just launch the enemy into just basically into your handstand stance. And if you're keeping track here, if it's blocked, you'll be in handstand stance with big plus frames in their face. If you do use it raw, do be forewarned though, it does use up your tornado. So your combo ability is going to be just a little bit more limited than normal. But, you know, combos are still combos, but just be forewarned on that. So we get that, and we also unlock quarter circle forward 4. This is just a gigantic F-off kick. And you might notice I just did it twice in a row, right? So that's the thing. These two moves, compared to your regular heat smash, do not use up all of your heat meter. They're very powerful moves that are very unique and offer good properties, but you can do it and then still have heat meter left over. And just because we're keeping track here, quarter circle forward 4, if it's blocked, big plus frames, and it leaves you in the other stance in front of their face, right? Once again, this is going to be the Eddy gimmick here. Plus frames, one of the two stances, go from there. So once again, these are just gigantic attacks. Quarter circle forward 4 especially hits from very far away. So if you're just looking for like a way to surprise the enemy from a good distance away, that's also quite a bit faster than your run 3. It's a pretty good way to do it. Besides that, not too much in the way. Gimmicks or gigas there. Just we get access to 2 very powerful moves, and they do not drain all of your heat bar. So you can just kind of toss it out willy-nilly. Don't worry. You can do it, get blocked, and then, you know, still have a heat smash after the fact. So pretty strong, pretty okay. So now let's talk the stances. Very important part of the character. Let's talk first Negativa stance. So this is otherwise sometimes known as the relaxed stance. So you're just very low to the ground. And one thing, just so you know, because this is important before we get into anything else, while you're in this stance, you are indeed allowed to block. So compared to Tekken 7, some of the weirder stances you weren't allowed to block. Now just hold back the block just like anything else. So if you're in the stance and you feel like you're not safe to press a button at the moment, you can just hold back. Don't worry, you'll defend yourself. Now, while you're in this stance, as we've covered already in the video, many different moves put you into this stance. And usually at a good amount of advantage frames directly in their face, which is good because that's effectively where the mix-up comes from. This is one of your 2 main forms of mixing your opponent up. The core mix in this stance is usually, while you're in stance, 4-3, which is mid-mid and a heat engager, or 3-3, which is your hellsweep style move, your power low, which also builds a stock. Now, there's many other things, and we'll talk about that in a second here, but those are kind of the core too. You know, mid, have to stand block, low, have to crouch block, go from there, right? Makes sense. Fighting game mix-up 101. But we got some other fun toys to play with, right? Like, say, Negativa Stance 1. So, Stance 1 has a follow-up here, where you can go 1-3, and it'll put you back into stance. Now, 1-3 is not a natural combo. It will combo on counter hit, though, just so you know. And it's kind of one of those deals where if they're going to mash, hit the button, counter hit, go from there. The interesting thing, this is another low. So not every low has to be the hellsweep low. And you don't have to do the follow-up. In fact, if you do the 1 and hold down, you remain in crouching. So you can do this and then go for your various crouching moves, of which Eddy's pretty proficient at. Like while standing 4-4, the various full crouch moves like full crouch down forward 4, which is a low, full crouch down forward 3, which is a mid. There's a mix-up in and of itself, right? Other fun tools, Negativa 1+2, just a giant shoulder check. And also, this is chip damage if it happens to get blocked and safe with big pushback. Or 3+4, which is just straight up mid-launcher. No fuss, no muss, low on the gimmicks, you do it, and it's going to kind of mostly work itself out. And you can get some pretty decent damage off of it, right? So, launchers are good, and we still got more tricks. In fact, we got one really interesting bit here. So, Negativa 2-4-4. So, by itself, it's a string. First 2 hits are natural combo, which is good. 30 damage is respectable, right? It's not bad. Last hit, though, it's basically, you know, a will they, won't they, because it's not a natural combo, and is definitely not safe on block. Unfortunate. But one of the things here is the first 2 hits, you can let them rock, and then hold down and you crouch cancel. Like, you'll just go back into the Negativa stance, right? And by itself, very advantage on hit, as you can see, and more importantly, also advantage on block. And keep in mind here, I know +3 is not a lot to be plus by, but your Negativa stance, you're already very low to the ground. So all sorts of, you know, the quicker highs are going to go right over your head. So being +3 is not too bad. At bare minimum, if you're +3, your Negativa 4 is 15 frames. So simply the math on that, it works out. If they're going for like a 13 frame mid, it'll just be 1 frame faster, counter hit them, take them to town. Works out. A huge part of Negativa stance is simply the threat of the low and the hell sweep, right? That's just how it's got to be. Like, almost the point, I would say, of the stance is the threat of the hell sweep low. Like, that's the big deal, right? And this is also a mid, so if they're trying to crouch block to beat the low, you can just hit them. It'll be a natural combo. If they're blocking, say they're fearing, you know, 4-3, which is mid-mid, then also it's mid-high, yes, but if they stand block it, they have to do it for both hits. There you go. Like, it just works out, right? It's just quick source of plus frames. Plus frames always welcome, even if it's only a little bit. The stance, honestly, is not too complex in and of itself, right? And both the stances freely go into each other if you just hit down or up. You get your plus frames, you're in the stance, and for some mix-ups, and just kind of go from there. That's kind of the name of the game for Eddy. And now, let's talk handstand stance. So next we have handstand stance, this guy here. In-game known as Bananiera, which I believe I don't pronounce very good, so I'm just going to say handstand stance. So here is kind of your other big mix-up engine. And once again, just like for Negativa, your relaxed stance, so many things will just naturally put you in this stance with usually some advantage frames. And we have a lot of good tools we've already talked about actually throughout the video, like Handstand Stance 1, actually is in our top 10 moves section. It's really good. It's basically just a sledgehammer of a move. Don't need to think about it too hard, just do it, and you'll probably get good results. We have Handstand 2, 3. So this is good for combos if you happen to be in the stance. So this actually builds up your stack mechanic, which we'll talk about in a moment. So does good damage by itself, natural combo, don't need a counter hit, nothing like that. Good for juggles if you're in that situation, and builds stack, works out. Stance 3 is a very low profiling mid, and we actually talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the video. Very good for avoiding highs in situations where you're slightly negative, which you'll find quite a bit here, like Stance 4 will always leave you -3, and if they're going to match buttons after the fact, then 3 will beat almost everything they'll do on block. So works out. And also is a natural string as well, which will eventually put you into your relaxed stance. So 3-3-3. The first 2 hits are a natural combo, third one not so much, but only put you in -5 into relax. And once again, you're allowed to block in relax. You're not allowed to block in handstand stance, unfortunately. If you get bopped, well, we'll try not to get hit, basically. And then, speaking of 4, so this is one of your good check moves here. It's very fast for what it is, 12 frame mid, faster than most mids, right? And has some interesting follow-ups. So we have 4-2, that's a natural combo, 30 damage with a knockdown. The one thing is slightly unsafe on block, not the end of the world, -13, but you know, you're gonna get bopped with a punish. But we can also cancel it out. So if you're in stance here, and when you go for 4-2, which is this guy here, do 4-2-3, basically. Slide 2 to 3, and instead you'll get this nifty little backflip. Now this is not a natural combo, but what it is plus on block with chip damage. Now, 4 from stance knocks down on counter hit. Therefore, if you do counter hit with this, it actually will connect as a natural combo, so that's nice. And hey, speaking of the counter hit, so 4-2, if it catches them in the air, and they'll be airborne when 4 connects as a counter hit, will tailspin, like tornado the enemy, and you can actually follow up. And hey, free damage is free damage, right? We like that around here. So play around with that, right? So very strong counter hit options. Like, part of this idea of the stance is to get you to do something stupid, right? Either through trying to hit back against this and then getting low profiled by the 3, or just various tricks. Once again, too, also 1+2 is Power Crush, mid-hitting Power Crush. So you're not gimmicking your way around this, right? Mid-hitting is very strong. It's a little negative, but not that bad. You'll need only a light punish. So very strong options. And then we also have a throw. And this throw cannot be teched. If you get hit, end of story. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but what it does do is put you at advantage frames in your relaxed stance, right? And this is the running theme through the character. You know, plus frames in the stance, and much the same here. So you eat your damage, and then, you know, guess mids or guess lows, and kind of figure out how that's going to go. And also back 3, just kind of built-in evasiveness. He'll do a back step, then run forward with a big old boot. So there's a lot of options here. Once again, this is all to entail the mix-up. You're usually going to be advantage frames, and for the rare situations where you aren't, we talked about the situation earlier in the video, you got a Power Crush to bail you out, and you also have a very low profiling stance 3 to help go under quick highs. So you got options. So just like relaxed stance, handstand stance is all about mix, pressure. And for handstand stance specifically, once we start building those stacks, it gets a lot deadlier and a lot better. So let's talk about the stack system and Eddy's unique resource. Now let's talk his unique resource, the Mandinga. So that is this little hurricane icon. And you can build up to 2 stacks of it, no more. That's it. If you get more than 2, well, it just kind of goes away, so you don't got to worry about it. And it exists only for the round you're in. Once the next round begins, then, well, you go back to 0, start all over. So what exactly is this? What's the point, right? So what it does is unlocks 2 new moves for your handstand stance, and they're both very powerful moves. And how you get it? Well, there's only 3 ways, so it's not too complex. Negativa 3-3, the hellsweep, which is probably going to be the main way you're going to get it. And just regular neutral, down back 4-4. Just 2 big kicks. It'll also give you a stack of the Mandinga. And also in handstand stance 2-3. Same deal. That's it. There's only 3 ways to do it. And they'll kind of happen naturally over the course of the round. Once you have it, you unlock 2 new moves. You unlock, well, in handstand stance only, you can only do it in handstand stance, back 4. And what back 4 is just basically a big old mid hit. Big old mid hit. And it's a mid hit that keeps people honest. This move is plus on block, plus 6 on block. And I'll put you back into your normal, just neutral stance, right? So whatever you're doing next, decidedly, it's pretty much your turn. And the other thing we get here is while you're in handstand, 3+4. And this becomes a new power low. So now you can trip people up with a strong low option here. 28 damage, not the most, but certainly not bad, right? Leaves them standing. You're slightly advantaged directly in their face, not too bad. It's negative on block, but not full punish on block. It's not like your regular hell sweep, which is death on block, basically. Your regular hell sweep is negative 26 on block. So much worse, right? You'll eat a small punish, but not too bad. So that's kind of it. Strong mid-strike, which is advantage on block, and a new powerful low. The thing about this is you can build 2 stacks, right? And both of them get much better once you have the additional stack. So that mid now just straight up knocks the opponent down. Like no fuss, no muss. Knocks them down. Also splats if they're near the wall. So keep that in mind because this actually can give you potential wall combos depending on how things are going for you. Always keep that stage awareness, right? And also the low, well, the low becomes just a true knockdown now. It does more damage, and since it's a true knockdown, you can chase after the fact. Also, keeping in mind that stage awareness now, handstand, new power low, level 2, will cause a stage break on the stages that allow it, right? So you can also get a pretty decent combo after the fact. So, like, the mechanic's not, like, terribly, complex or nothing. It just gives you access to 2 new moves. Both are very strong. And if you hit level 2, both those moves just get better yet. Over the course of the match, just with the usual Eddy shenanigans, especially with the hell sweep, you'll probably build at least 1 stack. And once those moves are unlocked, just keep them in mind because they're both extremely valuable moves that you will want to use in the round. Okay, so now before we get into the other sections of the video, I want to talk about specifically relaxed state hell sweep 3-3, right? It's a very powerful move. You're always going to be using this move. You need to use this move. It's super good, but there is a specific weakness in that, and some moves, depending if where you hit the enemy, there's actually a very specific counterplay that can make it kind of bad. So say I'm a little further out, right? And Eddy goes for 4-4-3, which he should. It's a very good move. For the move to launch the enemy, it has to hit point blank. It has to be what we call a clean hit. If the clean hit doesn't happen, the enemy does not get launched. And that means I can get hit by the first hit, block the second one, and then get a guaranteed 13 frame punish. So you have to really watch out about that. Now, specifically for forward 3, like if you're doing it like and you're very close to the enemy anyways, they don't have time to backdash out really. Like I can backdash all I want. I'm still too close. I get clean hit. Sure, no big deal. Much the same if you happen to be near any of the walls or anything like that, right? But just keep in mind if you're in Negativa stance and when you start going for, your 3-3 offense, if it's not like point blank, the enemy can have a backdash option and take the hit on the first hit and then block the second one. So just buyer beware on that one. Now, of course, there's a lot of things you can do. Like you can move forward as well. You can meet them and just like then catch them as they're moving backwards as backdashing. Or you can just take your low, like it's effectively guaranteed if you know they're going to do it. Or go for like say down 1, take that hit, then go from like full crouch pressure. Like there's a lot of play, counterplay. I'm just letting you know there's like one big red flag on the move specifically. You can hit 4-4-3 in from very far away. Like the range on the move is kind of ridiculous for what it is. But if you're hitting like say from the tip, then at that point, just take the first hit of the hell sweep, block the second, get punished. You got to watch out for that. So now let's talk combos. Everyone needs combos. Of course, Eddy has lots of combos himself. Maybe a lot of his damage comes from his various mix, but every now and then you're just going to launch dude, right? It's Tekken. That's how it's going to work. So let me run you through the two main launchers, your down forward 3, which is a classic launch, and also sidestep 3+4, which is your more safe launch. That one won't lead to as much big damage, but the goal here is simply we're going to get the hit, we're going to launch the enemy, and we're going to end in a way that'll build one of our stacks, so our handstand offense will just get all the better yet. It's kind of what we're aiming for. And also after this, we'll show you some example wall combos, a few notes, and then some other basic B&Bs. So that said, let's start with the launchers. So that's a good basic example here. There's a little trickiness with the stance because we're doing stance 2-4, canceling in the crouch, which puts us back into our crouching stance, and then doing another 2 from there. And after that, we're doing cortical forward kick, which is our tornado launch. And for that, you want to kind of do that as early as you can. If you're a little slow, you might drop it. Practice makes perfect, but that's the idea. Now let's start with our other launcher here, sidestep 3+4. So not as much damage, but hey, it's a safe launcher, right? You're not getting punished on block. So that's a reward in and of itself. Sort of the same deal, just a little bit of trickiness here. When you're doing this, keep in mind the initial hit will always put you in a crouching state. So that's why we're doing while standing 1-4, which will respin the enemy. From this point here, then back 3-3, which puts us into our state, and then relax state 2, which once again will rejuggle, and then we're going to go for that cortical 3 kick here, boot, tornado, and just follow up with our ender. Pretty easy stuff. That's kind of the two main launching routes. And of course, you know, there's more launchers, but you get the rough idea, right? This is the kind of stuff we're aiming for. Now let me show you the idea of corner carry and wall pressure and all that. So using the example here of our basic down forward 3 launcher, let me show you how we get to the wall. So you can see right here before we even end up the combo, we can tail spin them. We're already at the wall. So what do we do when we're at the wall specifically? Well, let me give you an example. Generally, when we're at the wall, it's pretty simple, and we already use our tornado. We're going to be aiming for back 3-3. So back 3-3, just, you know, keeps them on the wall, and the final hit hits them low to the ground, so it's going to be mostly unscaled damage. So it's going to be basically an easy 12 damage in the air combo, and you're probably going to wind up with like high 70s, low 80s for damage. In this situation as well, you can go directly into handstand stance 2-3 and build a stack. You'll do a little less damage, but say if you need the stack, it'll be good. Also, when they're at the wall, the mix gets a lot better as well, which is handy. If we're a little closer than mid-screen, we can change up some of our routes to account for the wall and maybe not use our tornado so early. Structure at the beginning is still basically the same. We're going to start the same way here. Maybe 2-4 carries them to the wall already, or maybe you can use like a down 4-2 to pop them up just a little bit. But basically, once they're at the wall, we didn't use our tornado already. Then we use our down 4-3, which is already a launcher, but it's also a tornado on top of being a launcher, right? Puts them very high on the wall. And after that, we go for our back 2-3-3, same deal. Hits low to the ground, good scaling, right? Still get pretty respectable damage, all things told. So if you're near the wall, you hit them, you didn't use your tornado yet, usually down 4-3 is the way to go, just because it puts them so high on the wall after that, and it makes everything else really easy after the fact. Now here's just a little bonus piece of tech, letting you choose your ender for a combo. A lot of times, you want to build a stack, right? Sure. But sometimes if you want to sacrifice just a little bit of damage, you can get a much more advantageous situation. So basically, any combo that ends with like this tornado, you can do this instead. So do whatever combo you're going to do. Doesn't really matter which one it is. And then we end with our big boot, right? And when we're going forward, instead of usually going for like whatever ender we're going to go for, we're instead going to do this. Handstand and do handstand 1. And it'll spike the enemy down to the ground. And it'll leave you in Negativa stance directly in front of their face. And this is particularly good against people who just try to like back roll everything. And normally it's a pretty safe option, and it still technically is, but since you're doing this and you're in stance right in front of their face as they're waking up, then, you know, guess 3-3, guess 4-3, like, you know, guess the Negativa mix-up, sure. We're losing our ender, we don't have our guaranteed stack build, sure, but we're put in a situation where you gotta guess pretty big, pretty fast, right? And either option is going to deal a substantial amount of damage to them, and probably a pretty okay outcome for you as Eddy. So basically, you don't always got to go for the home run swing. Like, it's cool when you do. It's certainly cool when you do. But if you just want to sacrifice a little bit of damage, handstand 1, Negativa right in their face as they wake up, and basically guess mid or guess low, try it out. See how you like it. All right, and now have a bunch of just ancillary side combos, quick and dirty. Let's roll the tape. And that is the Eddy Gordo guide. So Eddy, he's certainly got some interesting stuff going on, and hopefully this video showed you what's up. As always with the longer videos, if you stuck it through to the end, hey, leave a like, it helps. And besides all that, I'm just kind of happy he's here now, right? Eddy is one of the characters people associate with Tekken. Maybe he's not a Mishima or anything like that, but he is one of the faces of the game. Tekken 3 is the game that put Tekken on the map. And Eddy was the face of that game for a lot of it, right? People, you know, you just mash the buttons. That's what people associate with the character. And all the cool kicking animations, all that kind of stuff, you know, and so on and so forth throughout the years. And I like this version of Eddy Gordo. Time will tell where he'll wind up on the tier list. I'm not here to give you a tier assessment. But he definitely has a clear and defined game plan of whatever he's doing, some way, somehow, he's going to get some plus frames. Probably be in one of his 2 stances once he gets those plus frames, and then start mixing up from there. So learn those stances, they're pretty important. And that all said, I guess we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Tekken.
Love